Bring him from the yard. Arr.
And I would like to thank my first mate supporters, Andre Cruz. This is Down the Diecast Pirate, and what I have for you today is what I want to call a post-apocalyptic what build? It's post-apocalyptic, and it's for the Three Blind Mice Invitational. And I have never done one of these before, and this one I guess you have to dig through the scrap bin, which I don't have much of because I just got started not too long ago. So let's just take a look at what we have here. Alright, so bringing in on the F2, on the Silverado here, is a old Matchbox mixer truck. So let's get that down off the ramp, or off the trailer, and we'll get the Silverado out of the way. Alright, so we got this guy coming in, and you know, I'm kind of thinking that, you know, this would be like a troop transport type of thing. So how are we going to accomplish that? Well, I have parts of a junk Hot Wheels custom Barracuda. The roof's gone, the bottom was smashed. This is parts of two different cars that were smashed. But I'm kind of thinking, and it doesn't even roll or anything. I'm thinking we can probably maybe cut that off right there and just put the back of the car right up on top of that. Okay, so there's that part of it. And then there's one more thing. So coming in on the ramp truck is this thing. And I was like, well, how are we going to get these guys around in the post-apocalyptic world on these little bitty truck tires, right? So what I'm kind of thinking is we take these tires, jack this thing up on top of them, and we'll put this on the back of there, and maybe we'll drill a hole in the top of this and put that turret up in there. I don't know. I've never done one of these before. I have no idea what I'm doing. This could be fun. Let's get these up on the turntable. Alright, so I think, yeah. Let's get these things apart and see what we gotta do to make them fit together the way I think they gotta go. This car is what it is. I'm going to clean up this base first just to make it so when I glue it on, or however I attach this to here, it adheres to it because it's very filthy. It was, the bottom of this car was, the car this was off of was in the ground, in the dirt. I started clipping these little points out to get the axles out of here and realized, you know, I'm never going to use this base for anything. And it was going to be difficult to get those ones near the side and trying to get down in there with the grinders. I just broke the base to get the axles out. We may use the turret. I talked about possibly putting it on top of the cab, but we're not going to make a huge hole in that, especially since, where's the interior? Here it is. We got a chrome guy with no feet. Well, so because this goes up inside there, so I don't want this poking down through the cab, you know, and interfering with stuff. So more likely what we'll do is I'll just slice off the bottom of this and we'll just glue it right to the top. Now I'm looking at, obviously these tires won't fit up in there, the rub, but I kind of want to jack it up some. So to that extent, I made these axle tubes that are approximately the same width as that, right? And So when we put this in here, okay, somehow, get this on the camera, somehow, if I glue that right there, it's not going to be down far enough. Like, literally, if I put these in here, it's too high. So it's got to come down some. And I just have to figure out where. I have this .8 styrene rod. I also have 1/16 aluminum tube, which is a smaller diameter than this stuff. I think this is the, yeah, that looks right. So this would be the 3/32 tube. I also have this brass rod. So there's 3/64. It doesn't show the size. It's 1/16. Okay. I was bending this stuff in the store. I went back to Hobby Lobby another day, and I actually bent this stuff. This stuff bends very easily and does not hold its shape. So if I'm going to use this for anything, it's got to be where it's not in a structural support type of situation, because let's say, for instance, I would like bend one end of it up and the other end of it up and then have it come underneath to attach the axles to. If we put too much pressure on that, it's going to bend that brass rod. So the brass rod, as far as making chassis, is out. Same thing. I mean, we could use the styrene, but just like the brass rod, it would have to be reinforced. And where did I? But if we use this aluminum tube, it's going to hold its shape very well. So if I get it shaped the way I want it to be, and then attach the axles to it, I think that's the way to go. So I'm not going to do any of that stuff on camera. I just wanted to kind of explain my thought process on this, and I hope it kind of makes sense. The other thing is, I'll show right now. I'm not going to do it, but I'll explain it. So I bought this saw, which is a jeweler's saw blade. I also have a jeweler's saw. If I look at where the front of that dashboard is, and cut down in front of that, that might be where to go. The other thing is, if I cut it off behind there, okay, and here again is my thought process and thinking ahead, right? If I cut behind there and don't use this cowl panel in this build, then I could use this cowl panel to repair a custom Barracuda that's missing the cowl panel. So I think that's where I want to cut it off. I want to cut it off right there, and wherever that comes down on the interior. I mean, if we could slide it, we might be able to just slide it back and use some filler too. So that's not that big of a deal. And I do have some reproduction steering wheels like this, but I have an idea for that steering wheel too in another build. So let me get to working on this and see what I can figure out. And if I have anything to show you, I'll come back and record it. Alright, so I got this sawed in half, and it actually, it ended up going a little back farther than I wanted it to for the cut. I was trying to cut right behind those broken A-pillars, but that's okay. We'll see how this lines up here. Okay, which, that's not bad. Now if we put the interior in, so now if I cut it off right where the body of the car touches the back of the truck, then that's where the front of the seats are. So maybe we'll probably want to cut that back a little bit. We may just end up leaving the firewall in there and then just filling in around it. So I think that's going to work out okay. The other thing that I have to do is, it's going to be somewhat difficult, but not too bad. I have to cut this base in half. Now, I could cut it off right behind. It doesn't have to go all the way forward. I could cut it off right behind those exhaust pipes, and that's going to be okay. What I may do is take my actual jeweler's saw and just cut it at an angle right behind those. Actually, no, that would be too far forward, wouldn't it? Let me see where the interior comes to on this. Okay, so yeah, I could cut it right there, so I'm not trying to cut across the whole thing. I'll do that. Just wanted to bring it back. I got the base done, and it wasn't completely even on both sides, but you know, we can kind of file that down if it's too long. Well, let's take a look at it. I haven't even put it on here yet. Oh, and that's going to be perfect. So it's not too long, not too short. I'm wondering if I should my thought on this is don't really want to put tires up on there. We're gonna and the thing of it is I know this is a scrap bin build apocalypse thing, so I'm using the only scrap car I have, along with another one that you can't get the parts for, and realistically if you wanted one that was intact with the mixer on it, you can get it for like $4 or $5 on eBay. I mean, these cars with the mixing trucks are dirt cheap. Okay, so basically it's a scrap truck because it doesn't have the mixer on it. Okay, so I went ahead and scrubbed that down, and this is fresh from being washed, and you notice it's not wet at all. And I don't know if I mentioned this in another video. I thought I was going to, and I think I had to cut it out because of time. I got this little travel hair dryer. I picked it up at Goodwill for like $2, but this thing works great for drying parts very quickly. So there's your tip. Okay, I will tell you right now, this is not like Texas metal stuff where they're laying it out on a table and taking precise measurements. I'm eyeballing this stuff, guys. A tape measure would probably help, but I'm not going to get that into it. So I think so pretty much what I'm looking at is where this is going to attach is right in front of this angle support there. If I'm showing it, the angle support there. Okay, so if I go by that and I look straight down from this part here, that is lining up with just right there. Okay, so if that's lining up with that bend, then I can lay this on here just like that, and my next bend needs to be right there. Okay. Alright, so I just got this separated, and yeah, this end is a little long, but that's okay. Because you can always take a little bit off. If you cut it too short, you got to make a new one, but if you leave it a little too long, take some off and get it to the length you need it to be. So after running it on my little bench grinder there a little bit, it fits perfectly, and now all we have to do is make one for the other side. Okay, I should also make note that when you bend this, if you bend it too far and bend it back, it will break off. And so this joint right here is about ready to break, so we'll have to be extremely careful with that. What I'll do is get that cut to where I need it to be, and then we'll probably add some super glue around that very carefully just to give it some reinforcement. Alright, so what I'm going to attempt to do here is not use the super glue gel on this because it's so thick. Yeah, so that should work very well, and it really does not add anything to the dimension of the piece. My plan with these axles is to cut them in half, but I don't want the pieces to go flying because I'm going to use them, okay? And realistically, I could cut the end of it off and then do something to reattach it, but what I want to do is actually glue it inside the tube. Alright, I'm going to show you where I am with the first front one. So, pretty much, like, you know, there's no, how do I say it, there's no right or wrong way to do this. It's finding what works, okay? This reminds me of when I was a kid and my dad, you know, he'd get a week off of vacation every summer. And we never went anywhere. We never went on vacations. What we did when he had a week off is we worked around the house. So one year, and I don't remember how old I was, he took his week off. We built a shed. He had no plans. He just knew how big he wanted to make it and how wide the door had to be so his motorcycle could be parked in there. And, you know, he still has that shed. Let me get on with this. Okay. So this looks very good now. I just have to make one for the other side. Alright, so this is what I got to. And we had some altercations this week. Altercations. Things started falling off, okay? This is what happened. So this piece fell off. I was getting some stuff around the other day to finish the Camaro, and this front axle came loose. And so I went to put this, I got this axle back on without super gluing the tires, thankfully. And then I went to reinforce these axles, and I went to put this piece back in, and the super glue I put on interfered, and it had the quick set on there, and it was a huge mess. But I got it back together somewhat. So what we're looking at here, I still need to paint this guy. I'm not really doing anything with the glass. It can just be what it is. That's not bad, but it's not going to be polished. So it's not like I'm going to dip it in the floor shine for this one. This is supposed to look like somebody just took a truck that was sitting around and took a car that was sitting around and put it up on there but I need to cover these gaps, and I have these pieces of styrene that I cut for the 55 Galaxy, and I thought these might work. Now, I'm kind of liking how it makes the wing, but I don't like that because the contour on the car body, and if I go like that, then it's in too far. So where it's going to be on both sides, so it's where it needs to be, and then we'll probably trim off this edge maybe. The other thing to consider is this has to go back on here too, so I'm glad I looked at that before just gluing these on, because that wouldn't fit. So yeah, let me work on that off camera so I'm not boring you guys. Alright, so I got a little carried away, and this was going to be the reveal, but I'm not done. I'm going to do the last part off camera. I was just talking to my buddy Jay at Jay's Diecast Creations, and I showed him a picture of this, and he's like, hey, if you're going for that, do this. So I'm going to do another effect to this, and we'll see how it comes out. I gotta say, for not knowing what to do with this thing, having an idea in my mind about how I wanted to put the vehicles together and the parts that I wanted to use and where I wanted to put them, not knowing how I was going to produce the finish and the look of the vehicle, and having other things to do this week, and last week not feeling 100% and having to do catch up because I wasn't working on cars at night. I was just and coming right down to the wire, and on my way home today I was like, I don't want to build this. Can I just not do it, because it's not going to be any good. And just moving forward with it and finding something that went along with the thought that I had about making it look like it went through a windstorm, and deciding, hey, you know what, this black paint might make it look like it went through an oil field and an oil well erupted, and they were driving through high winds to get away. And I showed a picture of that to my buddy Jay, and he's like, hey, add Nuln Oil to it. So I did. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I am proud to present to you my post-apocalyptic build for the 3 Blind Mice builds. Scrap build. Take parts out of your scrap bin. Don't use anything you bought in a store. And I bought trinkets and stuff. I had some ideas for putting chains off, and that wasn't the idea of the build. That wasn't the theme of the build. The theme of the build was to take what you had, and I went with that. And these guys, they would have took a truck that was just sitting there, and they would have took a car that was just sitting there, and they would have put it together because that's what they had. And this is the battle wagon. This is the troop transport. This is, you got the guys up and riding in the back with the guns and shooting down, and you got the turret on the front, and you got the brush guard, or whatever you want to call that thing, the ankle biter or whatever is going to mow them down if they get in front of it. So here you have it. Thank you to the 3 Blind Mice for hosting this and allowing people to join your builds. You're an awesome group of guys. I really appreciate it. And all you other builders taking part in something amazing like this and digging down deep. And thank you to Jim Silva for really giving me the boost, you can do it. I had no idea. And Jay, and talking almost every night and talking about different things and how to get different effects. And I still haven't done that stuff, but you know, I really appreciate it. And the last bit about adding the Nuln Oil to it really makes this thing jump from what it was. And now let me just talk about what I did. I don't know if I covered any of this in the previous recordings or not, but you know, I took the the police vehicle, that Matchbox police vehicle, which I absolutely hate, and I took the turret off of it and I put it on the hood of this truck. And then I took the wheels and I made a custom suspension for it and brought it down so it jacked the truck up in the air. And I took that custom Barracuda, which was basically a junk car. It's never going to be used as a restoration because it's just too far gone, right? And I put it up on the back of the truck, and then I took the plastic and I bent it to shape and I glued it on there. And I put the whole thing together, and then I didn't even have the interior and stuff in. I just took flat black Testor's paint and a brush, and I just started going to town on the base and the undercarriage and the body. And I was like, you know what? Maybe this thing went through an oil field, and I had this idea of taking my airbrush and spraying it high pressure, so from the front to the back, so it looked like it had been through a windstorm, and I could get the same effect with this brush, right? So that's what I did, and I just took the paint and I just started taking the brush and dragging it along the side of the car, the vehicle, the whole thing. And some of it doesn't make sense, and some of it does. And I was like, you know what? I took the silver blue Sharpie to begin with before I started doing the black, and I colored these panels to make them look like because they were just white styrene, right? You know. And I was like, oh, maybe they colored the lights, and I was like, this is goofy. I need to do something else. And Jay and I had talked, and he talked about spraying it with a matte clear first, and that was my intention. I was going to get home tonight and I was going to get it out after the premiere of, live premiere of my latest video, and I was going to spray the matte clear on it. And I just pulled it out, and the front axle was broken off, and I had to super glue it back together and all this. And this thing on the bottom broke off, and I had to put that back on. I never would have done this without the encouragement of you guys. Be sure to check the description for the list of my upcoming builds, video releases. There will be a couple bonus videos coming out very soon. One of those will be the 300 subscriber prize announcement, so you can enter that, and when I hit 300 we'll have a drawing. If you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. Click the like button, it really helps me out a lot. I really appreciate it. I love seeing all the likes, but really those likes, man, they will boost my videos in the YouTube algorithm and help other people find this channel and see my videos. Leave a comment down below. Tell me what you think of this. I hope you guys like it. I think it turned out good. Is it a thing of beauty? No, it was not supposed to be. And ring that bell for notifications. As always, this is Don the Diecast Pirate, and I will see you next time. And I consider this a scrap truck because I really don't like it. Even though I know you guys are out there, and you love that thing. I'm sorry, I don't, okay? I look at that and say, ooh, parts. So, yeah. So that's where we're at with that. I said I don't really want to leave this steering wheel in there. That is a good original steering wheel that does not it doesn't get to be wasted in a post-apocalyptic build.